Okay, I think we are just about live. And we have attendees dropping in, perfect. I'm just gonna wait a few moments to let everyone enter our webinar. Great. Okay. Okay, great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which will be about how to apply for a residence permit as a student to Sweden. And we are also broadcasting this webinar on YouTube, where my colleague Douglas will help answer any questions in the chat. So please write your questions in the chat on YouTube. If you're following here on Zoom, you can write your questions in the Q&A. So let's get started. Here is just the program for today. I'm going to start also by, of course, saying my name. I'm Adam. I work here at the Swedish Institute. I'm also joined by Lejla and Amanda from the Swedish Migration Agency. They're with me on the phone. So the program for today, we'll start with just some short information about the COVID-19 situation. And I'll say everything I can about that. Right now, there's a lot of unknown, but I'll try to update with the latest. After that, we'll have the main presentation from the Swedish Migration Agency with all the information about how to apply for a residence permit. And then after that, we will have questions and answers. So please write your questions either in the Q&A on Zoom or in the chat on YouTube, and we will help answer as many questions as we can. But let me get started. Okay, so first about the COVID-19 situation and how it affects you admitted students. So the current situation in Sweden, as with most of the EU, there's a ban on non-essential travel to Sweden, which will last until May 15th. As of now, it may be prolonged, we don't know. So this means that Swedish citizens can still enter Sweden, and residents. So those are people who they have residence permits and they already live in Sweden. They can return to Sweden. But students, for example, who have a new residence permit, at the moment, they can't enter Sweden if they aren't already living here. Swedish embassies and consulates are limited, many of them around the world. Some of them can't process residence permit applications at the moment. And so they're very limited. Swedish universities are holding distance online learning at the moment. And some of them will do so this autumn as well. And in Sweden, we are recommended to be cautious, to practice social distancing, and to restrict our travel. So for students starting this autumn, the admission selection process, it went on as any other year. And the scholarship selection process also went on. So the decisions made in these processes, they didn't take COVID-19 into account, meaning the decision was made just like any other year. When it comes to deadlines for paying your tuition, for applying for housing, for submission of any additional documents to your university, this is information you need to get from your university. They will have the most relevant information for you, and information might differ from university to university. So you really need to make sure you get information from your university, contact them if you have any questions. This is really, really important. And even more important is when it comes to the autumn semester start dates and the possibility of distance learning for parts of the autumn semester, you really need to know what the situation is, what it will be, and you need to get this information from your university. It's different from different universities, so I can't really tell you now, but you need to check with your university. They will keep you updated. So keep a check on those emails. When it comes to residence permits, I'm just going to say something quickly before my colleagues will talk much more in depth. The residence permit application process, which is online, is open, but there are issues in the process as a whole. So as you know, you apply online, and that's just like any other year. And you should still do this as soon as you can when your documents are in order. So make sure you have a complete application and when you know when the autumn semester start date will be. So when you know this and when you have your documents in order, you can apply online early. And then the decision will not be affected by the COVID-19 situation, but the whole process will be affected probably, because after you have applied and you have gotten a decision, you will need to go to a Swedish embassy or consulate to hand in your fingerprints and to, in the end, receive your residence permit card. And at the moment, there's a lot of problems for this part because Swedish embassies might be closed or you might not be able to travel within your country. So this process, there's a lot of issues and this is different for different countries. So you really need to check the Swedish Migration Agency website and the Swedish Embassy in your country's website. I have some links for you after this slide. Also, you should check Swedish travel restrictions. Can you travel into Sweden? And you should check travel restrictions in your own country, of course, before when you make your plans. Because if you can't travel within your country or if you can't travel to Sweden, then of course that's going to be an issue. So here I gathered some links for you. You should definitely check the website of your university of admission. You should check the Swedish Migration Agency's website, your local Swedish embassy or consulate website, and there's also official information from the Swedish authorities on the coronavirus, COVID-19. I will send all these links to you, and they will be posted in the video description on the YouTube video as well. So you don't have to note them down right now. So that's all for this brief first part of the presentation. I'm now going to hand over to my colleagues from the Migration Agency. And if you have any questions about this part or the next part, you can just keep asking them either in the Q&A on Zoom or in the comment or in the chat section on YouTube. And we will answer them after the presentation. Okay, now I would like to hand over to my colleagues Lejla and Amanda from the Migration Agency.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Lejla and I'm here with my colleague Amanda representing the Migration Agency today. We will discuss 6 topics regarding residence permits in Sweden. First one is, what is a residence permit? Second, proof of financial means. What is proof of health insurance? We are also going to discuss residence permit for family members. And how do you apply for a residence permit? And what are the common mistakes you should avoid? What is a residence permit? In order to study in Sweden for more than 90 days, you must have a residence permit. A residence permit gives the holder the right to travel to and live in Sweden for the duration of the permit. The main rule is that you apply and receive your decision before you arrive to Sweden. The requirements for a residence permit is that you have a valid passport. You can't get a permit for a longer period than your passport is valid. Another requirement is that you are admitted to full-time studies. 30 credits is 1 semester and 60 credits is 2 semesters. You must also be able to support yourself during the period for which you are applying. This is even a requirement during the summer breaks. You must have a comprehensive health insurance if the planned stay in Sweden is shorter than 1 year. And you also must pay in the full first installment of the tuition fee or have a scholarship covering the first installment of the tuition fee. The permit is based on the study period, plus 2 weeks before and after, normally from 1st of August. For programs spanning more than 1 year, the first permit may be up to 13 months. The residence permit is granted 1 year at a time. Students studying a program for longer than 1 year can renew the permit from inside of Sweden. When renewing your permit, you must apply for an extension before your current permit expires. This is in order to legalize your stay. And you can apply for a renewal no earlier than 6 months before your current permit expires. And now my colleague Amanda will talk about proof of financial support.
So, hi everyone, I am Amanda and I will talk a bit about proof of financial support. Proof of financial support. You need to be able to show that you have financial support for yourself for the period for which you're applying for residence permit. You need to show that you have access to at least 8,514 Swedish crowns each month. The monthly amount can be reduced if you can prove that you will get free food or accommodation from an educational institution or an organization that works with international exchange during your stay. So if the monthly amount can be reduced in your situation, attach supporting documents. Proof of financial support. How long do you need to be able to support yourself? Well, when you submit your first application, you should show that you have sufficient funds for the first year. If you study a program longer than 1 year, you need to renew your permit. And when you apply for your renewal, we will ask you to show financial support for the coming year. And we continue with the proof of financial support. How can you prove that you have enough funds for your stay? You can prove this through bank assets in an account of which you are the sole account holder of. We accept regular savings, checkings, or deposit accounts. You can also show proof of financial support through a scholarship. You can also show it through a study grant or similar continuous support, for example, student financial aid. And does the money need to be in my own account? Well, if you apply only for yourself, the account should be in your name only. If you apply together with a spouse, it is okay if you have a shared account with that person. The bank statement may not be from other people, such as your parents or a friend. And the bank account cannot be a shared or a joint account. And what is not accepted to show financial support? Well, as already mentioned, no shared accounts except your co-applying spouse. We do not accept statements of available credits such as funds or shares or investments. frozen accounts or time deposits where the money are frozen at some point during the study period is not accepted either. And what happens if you have a scholarship? Well, it needs to cover your living expenses and not only the tuition fee to replace the requirement for financial support. So the financial support for living expenses is a separate condition apart from paying the tuition fee. The certificate must show the period you will be receiving the scholarship for and how much of the money will be available for your living expenses. Information about either the monthly sum, including information regarding how many payments will be made or the total amount paid, should also be present. And other important tips regarding financial support is that the bank statement cannot be older than 3 months before the start of your permit period. And we have an example for that. So if the permit period starts on the 15th of August, the date of the balance should not be earlier than 15th of May.
The next topic is health insurance. If your permit period is less than 1 year, you must show a comprehensive health insurance. Many universities offer a comprehensive health insurance for students, and it's called FAS Plus. That is sufficient proof of health insurance. And you should check with your university if they have this kind of acceptable proof of health insurance. If they do not have FAS Plus or any other acceptable health insurance, you must submit your own health insurance. The health insurance certificate must be valid for the whole period that you will stay in Sweden. It must cover the cost of emergency and other medical care, dental care, and hospitalization. It must also cover the cost of a possible return journey home because of medical reasons. If your university has FAS Plus, you don't need to upload the proof of health insurance because the Migration Agency has a list of all the universities who offer FAS Plus, and we know which they are. Students studying 2 years programs in Sweden or longer, they do not need to submit proof of health insurance, as you will be covered by the Swedish healthcare system. When you arrive to Sweden, you must contact the Swedish tax agency. Then you will apply for a personal identity number in Sweden. This personal identity number makes you covered by the Swedish healthcare system.
And now we will talk a bit about permits for family members. Any family member, such as a spouse, a cohabitant partner, or children under the age of 18, you intend to bring with you in Sweden, also needs a residence permit, and so should apply for a permit. Family members can apply for a residence permit if the family member is planning to live together with the person moving to Sweden to study. The family member should have a valid passport. The family member has financial support arranged for the period that they are applying for residence permits. So the co-applicant can show financial support by attaching a bank statement in his or her own name, but it's also possible that the main applicant can show financial support for the co-applicant. You have supporting documents proving the kindship, such as a marriage certificate or a birth certificate, or documents proving that you and your partner have lived together abroad for a period of time. If you're planning to bring your child without the other parent accompanying to Sweden, attach a letter of consent or document showing that you have the custody of the child. And the required financial support for family members. For adults, it's 3,500 Swedish crowns per month, and for each child, it's 2,100 Swedish crowns per month. And how long are the residence permits for family members valid? Well, it depends on the main applicant. So it's the same validity period as the student of the family member.
How to apply. After you have been admitted to your school and paid the first installment of the tuition fee, you can submit your application for a residence permit online. Do not apply until you have a complete application. If you are supporting yourself through bank statement, keep in mind that the bank statement should not show date of balance earlier than 3 months from the start of the permit period. Do not apply too late. Processing time may vary, but the average waiting time is approximately 1 month. In most cases, you will also have to pay a fee. The fee is currently 1,500 for adults, and co-applicant children, it's 750. After applying, you will need to visit your closest Swedish foreign mission abroad to be photographed and have your fingerprints collected. This is in order for the residence permit card to be produced. You can do this before or after a decision has been made. However, keep in mind that in order for the UT card to be produced, it usually takes one month. So we recommend that you do this as early as possible. So the total processing time for a residence permit application is approximately 2 months. We also have some key tips for you. Make sure to extend your passport if it's about to expire. This is because you cannot obtain a permit for a longer period than your passport is valid. An incomplete application sent in early will take longer to process than a complete application sent in later, so only send a complete application.
We have also put together a few common mistakes that students sometimes make in order for you to try to avoid them. So common mistakes are incomplete applications, sending in a bank statement in someone else's name or shared with another person, or a frozen bank statement. Bank statements missing vital information, such as the issuing date, or the name of the account holder, or what type of account it is. Sending in a document for a scholarship that doesn't show the amount of living expenses it will cover, or that the applicant can use the funds as they like. When copying your personal details from the passport, please make sure that it includes the entire page. So all the details of the passport page must be visible. The numbers and the letters at the very top and bottom of the page should be clearly, and the passport copy should be in good quality.
I'll just show on the screen what the page looks like, and I will send a link to all the participants as well. So this is what the Migration Agency website looks like, and this is what your passport should look like, having all the numbers and everything. And I'm showing a slide now of the Migration Agency website, which is on www.migrationsverket.se. I'm also sending that link out to all participants. And so if you want more information, everything is on this website. And you can also find ways to contact the Migration Agency if you have questions on this website. Is that right, Lejla and Amanda?
Yes.
That's correct.
Perfect. Okay, with that, I think the presentation is finished. So we're going to start answering your questions. We have gotten a lot of questions, which is great. Keep asking questions. Like I said before, you can ask them in Zoom or on YouTube, and we will help you answer in the YouTube comments and here in the webinar as well. Okay, so let's get into the questions. I think the first question was about family, bringing family members. If I'm applying with my spouse, can the total funds be under a joint savings account?
Yes, that's okay. If the main applicant has a co-applicant applying at the same time, it's okay to have a joint savings account with that person.
Perfect. And do spouses or family members need health insurance as well?
No, there isn't such a requirement for spouses.
Great. And let's see. There's a lot of questions about family members. That's great. Can my spouse work while I'm in Sweden?
He or she can work if the permit is longer than 6 months. So if the permit will be longer than 6 months, the co-applicant will also be given a work permit.
Great. And then we had a question about who counts as a family member, and if a parent can count as a family member.
No.
Right. So it's your spouse and children, right?
A family member is a wife, husband, cohabiting partner, registered partner, and unmarried children under the age of 18.
Perfect. Okay, moving on, and let's see. So if there is a travel ban on entering to Sweden, will my application be denied?
Well, if there is a current travel ban when the student wants to enter Sweden, it can be a problem. Right now, the travel ban is not valid in, for example, August. So right now, we don't know what the situation will look like in the end of the summer. But if there is a travel ban, let's say later on in August, for example, it could cause an issue for the student, yes.
Okay, perfect. But at this point, we just don't know if there will be a travel ban. No one knows, and the decision will be made a little bit further ahead. So you will just have to keep updated, and your university for sure will send you the information about this as well. Perfect. So a lot of questions about embassies being closed. Like I said in the first part of the presentation, currently some embassies are closed, not all of them. So you really need to check which embassies, like if your nearest Swedish embassy or consulate is open, but some of them are closed or very restricted. Anyway, the question is, I'm from Iran and the Swedish embassy is closed in my country. What should I do to get my residence permit? can I travel to an embassy in another country? I mean, if I'm allowed to travel to another country.
Well, as you said, Adam, it's most important to keep yourself updated, and one useful website is Sweden Abroad. Yes, if you are allowed to travel to this other country, and the embassy is open there, yes, I don't see any problem to travel there to get your residence permit. However, we do not influence the opening hours of the embassies, so the only recommendation we can give at this moment is that you keep yourself updated and visit them as soon as they open.
And I can just add, so the application itself is done online, the first part. So at that point, you don't need to visit an embassy. It's further down the line, like Lejla and Amanda said earlier, when you leave your fingerprints and when you collect your residence permit card, that's when you need to visit a Swedish embassy or consulate. Great. And then there's also questions about what if the students, the banking system of the student needs to use in their home country, if that's closed, like which might be the case in, for example, Bangladesh, what should the student do then? This is a very tough question, of course.
Yes, as we said earlier, it's important that you apply on time and not too late. So I understand if it's not complete an application, if you're missing bank statements. Our recommendation is that you apply anyway, and in your application there is a space for like I would like to inform Migration Agency about, and then you can write that your bank is closed and that you are not able to receive an updated bank statement, perhaps. This way we will know about the situation, and you will most likely get a request to upload some documents.
Perfect. So previously we said about the travel ban. If someone, if there was a travel ban, should they still apply? And so at the moment, you should still apply. And the travel ban, it won't mean that your application will be denied. At the moment, during the travel ban, you can't apply for a visa, I believe, but you're not applying for visas, you're applying for residence permits. So that's different. Is that correct, Lejla and Amanda, that they can still apply even though there's a travel ban?
Yes, they are welcome to apply.
Okay. A question from someone in an EU or EEA country. So if they are studying in an EU country, can they apply for a residence permit in that European country where they are residing? Or do they need to travel to their home country to apply? I guess they mean when they're handing in the fingerprints and collecting the residence permit card.
Well, the main rule is that you are outside of Sweden. Being in another EU country, it's okay. However, there are not a lot of embassies that handle UT card and photograph and fingerprints in the European Union. Today, there are only 5. It's Berlin, Paris, Rome, Athens, and I forgot the one.
London or no?
Madrid.
Yeah. Yes.
So what should they do if they know that they will be in one of those countries, let's say Spain, during the time they apply, and may get their residence permit. How should they do anything different in their residence permit application?
No, it's the same, just a wait for your decision outside of Sweden.
Great. And but do they need to write that they are collecting the residence permit in another country than their home country?
Yes, yeah, there is a possibility to, in our application online, you can choose which embassy you would like to collect your UT card from.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So we'll continue taking, we're getting a lot of questions, which is great. We're getting questions on Zoom or YouTube. And let's see, I have a question here from YouTube. Can the student apply for a residence permit if their permit expires in mid-January of 2021? I guess I'm not sure if it's the current residence permit or.
That's longer than 6 months.
Right, because you need to have your bank statement at the earliest. What was it?
If it's I believe this is an extension, a renewal of residence permit, isn't it?
Right, probably.
Yeah, a renewal, that's at least 6 months before it expires. So right now it's too early.
Okay.
Keep in mind that we want complete applications, and the requirements for extensions will not be able to be processed this early.
I see. So it might be the case that the question was about passport, not the residence permit. So if your passport expires in, say, during the semester or during the time you need to be in Sweden. So for example, mid-January 2021, can they still use that passport to apply for a residence permit at this point?
Yes, it is possible. I would say it's possible, but you will not get a permit longer than your passport is valid. So when you want to renew your residence permit, you should also have renewed your passport.
But otherwise, they can also renew the passport and the residence permit in Sweden. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's okay.
Great. Okay, perfect. We're getting a lot of nice questions. Let's see. Can the bank statement be divided into multiple accounts?
I would say it's okay to have 2 accounts as long as you can show that you have sufficient funds in total. But I would say that the bank statements should be issued on the same date.
Great, thanks. Some more questions about bank statements. Can a student use the account of a parent who is the sole sponsor of the student? I mean, especially in the case if the installment of the tuition was paid from that account, the parent's account. This is something you touched upon in the presentation, but maybe we can just clarify.
No, it must be in your personal account.
Great. But you don't, I guess you can't see from which account they paid the tuition, so that doesn't really matter, right?
No, as long as the tuition is paid, that's all we are looking for, not from
exactly.
which account.
Great. There's a little bit of a some misunderstanding maybe about visa and residence permit. So yeah, there's a difference between visa, which is usually for a shorter time, and residence permit, usually for a longer time. And you, as students, for a full degree in Sweden, you will be applying for residence permits. That's correct, right, Lejla and Amanda?
Yes.
Great.
That's correct.
So does the bank account need to show just 8,514 crowns per month, or does the tuition fee balance also need to be included? So the money for the tuition fee, I suppose.
Well, the tuition fee is a separate condition apart from showing financial support for your living expenses. So these two conditions should be kept apart, I think. So the financial support is 8,514 Swedish crowns per month. And you should show this for every month that you're applying for. And the tuition fee is apart from that. It's not included.
Great. Here's a question about the pilot program, which we didn't really mention. The pilot program, well, yeah, the question is, how can I find a list of universities for the 2-year residence permit pilot program? Maybe you can just very quickly explain the pilot program and how to find information about it.
Well, the information is shown on our website. Shortly, I can inform you about the pilot. It's a two years permit for degree program students. And during the period of October 2019 to October 2022, there is a pilot project cooperation with the Swedish Migration Agency and 5 higher education institutes. And these 5 universities are Jönköping, KTH, Linnaeus, Lund, and Umeå.
Great. And these universities will most likely send information to you as a student as well.
However, just one more thing. If you are eligible for this 2-year residence permit, it is required that you then show funds of financial means for this permit period time. So for 2 years, you must show sufficient funds.
That's great. Good to know. Here's a bank account statement again. Can I include fixed deposits or timed deposits in the financial statement, which are maturing before the beginning of my residence permit?
Well, if the mature date is before the study period will start, I would say it's okay, but the funds cannot be frozen during a time of which the studies will continue, and so the funds must be available during the study period.
Great, thanks. We get more questions about the amount needed to be stated on the bank account. And there's a question if accommodation, how much you should account for accommodation costs, and whether the tuition fee should be included on the bank statement. I think we already addressed this. The amount that Lejla and Amanda stated before, that's the full amount you need to state. You don't need to show that you have the money for the tuition fee as well. And the amount, well, maybe it's better if Amanda and Lejla explain, who know the details.
Well, I think we're talking now about if the student receiving free food or free accommodation from the educational institution, right?
No,
And
yeah,
no,
I think the question
yeah.
is just how much do they need to show on their bank statement? That's how I interpreted it, at least.
Well, the monthly amount is reduced with each 1,627 crowns per month if you have free food, and the same amount equals if you have free accommodation.
Okay, and if they don't,
However,
sorry, go on.
free accommodation because you're living with a relative in Sweden is not okay. So it must be free accommodation provided by the higher education or an organization that works with international exchange.
Right, but so just to be clear, the how, so to say, normal situation for a student is that they need to show what's the amount they need to show per month if they pay for tuition.
8,514.
Great. And what about tuition fee? Just again, I know we've said it already a couple of times.
Yeah, the tuition fee is not a part of this amount that we just mentioned. This one about 18,514. The tuition fee is not should not be included in that amount. So it's important here to separate the financial support and the tuition fee.
Exactly.
So the tuition fee is paid to the university, and we can see if that is paid when we process the application.
Right. You see that separately. You don't need to see that on the bank statement.
No, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you. That's very clear. So a question about leaving biometrics. So that's the fingerprints. Do I need to do my biometrics before entering the country, Sweden, I guess, or can I do it after I enter the country? Also, is a residence permit carded before entering the country? Do I get the residence permit card before entering the country? I suppose that question means.
Well, if you are a visa-free citizen, then you are able to enter after you have received a decision from the migration agency. You can enter without a residence permit card and leave your fingerprints and be photographed here in Sweden. However, if you do need a visa to be in Sweden, you also will need your residence permit card to enter Sweden. So your biometrics must be at the Swedish Embassy.
Right. So that, I think this is worth going into a little bit more. So there are different rules for different countries. Some countries have an agreement with Sweden and the EU that they can travel to Sweden, or people from that country can travel to Sweden without a visa. That means they can apply for a residence permit online in their home country. And when they get a positive decision that they have gotten a residence, that they will get a residence permit, then they can travel into Sweden and they can leave the biometric in Sweden and they can receive the residence permit card in Sweden. But if you're a student who need a visa to travel to Sweden, then that's not an option because you will have to have your residence permit already before you can travel to Sweden. That's your travel permit. Is that a correct way of saying it, Amanda and Lejla?
Yes.
Great.
Very more clearly than I said it.
I think it's just good to say it as many times as possible. But yeah, just be sure to check what your status is. I think you all know this. If you need a visa to go to Sweden, this is something which is quite clear, but it's good to keep in mind. Everyone still needs to apply for that residence permit, but the situation looks a little bit different depending on what country you come from. Okay, here's a very difficult question. I'm not sure if we can answer, but let's try. So I wonder, if I have applied for a residence permit already, but my university will offer an online course for this upcoming autumn semester, will that affect my residence permit? If I decided to stay in my home country, here it's Thailand, to study on a distance or postpone the semester?
Well, I would say as it is now, it's the same conditions as usual, and that is that the studies should be performed in Sweden with the presence required here. As far as we know by now, this is nothing that is changed, but it could change. But as it is now, the requirement is that the studies should be in Sweden with the required presence here.
Yeah, that's great. And this is a very complicated situation because the situation is so special this autumn. We don't exactly know yet if degrees will be taught online or in Sweden, or if it will be a mix. But generally, if your degree is completely taught online and you don't need to travel to Sweden, then you don't need a residence permit for that period at least, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but this is why it's really important that you check with your university if your degree will be taught online, or if it will be taught online for, say, the first 3 months of the semester, and then you will have to go to Sweden, because this will really affect how you apply for your residence permit. Okay. So again, because I kind of confused the question before, here's a student that is being granted free accommodation from his university. So does his minimum monthly statement drop to 1,600 Swedish crowns?
Well, I have to count that.
You can just go through. We don't have to arrive at, like, yeah, just go through how much you withdraw.
Well, we withdraw 1,655.
Just for housing. So if housing is free, if that's offered by the university.
Yes.
Perfect. Let's see. Okay, let's see here. A family member question. So, I'm an Erasmus Mundus awardee at the University of Uppsala. I will be doing my master degree for 2 years, and I'm planning to bring my family with me. That is spouse and daughter. However, we are still not sure about whether we can depart together to Sweden due to work issues. Is it possible for us to apply for residence permit together, but not fly into Sweden together? In this case, might I fly first and then my family join me after 2 to 3 months? Is that possible?
Well, it depends if the permit period is 6 months, let's say, and his spouse is not arriving after 3 months. or even later, then there can be an issue of revoking her permit. So it depends on the permit period.
Right.
If her planned stay in Sweden is less than 3 months, then she probably will not have, take over.
Sorry, just to clarify.
I think it was a 2-year master.
So was the question that the main applicant and the co-applicant and the child also,
Yes.
they would apply together, and then the main applicant would come here for the studies, and then the co-applicant would just join later, but still they would apply together.
Yes.
But was that the question?
Yes.
Well, I would say, like in general, the main applicant should have an intent to come here to live with the main applicant. So maybe if the plan is to arrive several months later, maybe it's better to apply later.
Yes.
Because that's fine to apply later as a co-applicant. It's I would say quite common. It happens that the student wants to come here to settle and to start the studies calm.
Okay, perfect. So the
To have
spouse and child can apply as a cohabitant, but separately from the student.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
possible.
Okay, great. Okay, we have so many questions, and I'm sorry I won't have time for all, but we'll take a few more questions. And then, as I said before, we are also broadcasting this on our YouTube account, and the video will be available on YouTube afterwards as well. So you can go back and see in the video if there was anything you didn't catch now during the stream. All right, can a part-time job suffice as financial support?
When you apply for extension, yes. However, the part-time job must show a steady income.
Any certain amount of hours or how much money they would make?
No. What the job doesn't cover, the available funds at the bank statement must cover. So you can combine those two.
Right. And with that said, and also I can add the residence permit you get as a student, that also allows you to work. But it might be an issue time-wise to get the work done and to get your basically full-time university degree done at the same time. So that could be a real issue. And you have to finish your courses at the university. So we recommend that students find a way that they can dedicate themselves to their studies full time. But just so that you know, just like Lejla and Amanda said, it is possible to work at the same time. We have a question from a Swedish Institute Scholarship Awardee. It's quite long. Okay, let's see. So as an SI Scholarship Awardee, there's a deadline for arrival from the Swedish Institute that I need to oblige to. The scholarship will be terminated if there is a delay longer than 1 month after the expected start of studies, which is in August. While my university, for example, only offers distance learning studies this semester, can I still apply for a residence permit? She's afraid, or he or she is afraid, the migration agency may reject my application if I apply for a residence permit when my studies will be conducted online, and later on later on change to campus studies. So yeah, I guess the question is conflicting information from the SI scholarship and from migration agency. The scholarship says you have to be there on time, and the residence permit says or you can't apply for a residence permit if the course is taught at a distance. Yeah, I'm not sure if I managed to convey the question. Did you catch that, Lejla and Amanda?
Well, I think this question was slightly a bit like the one we had before about the required presence in Sweden. Was it kind of the same?
Yeah, it might be. And I think
because right now we still have the conditions as they are, and then it's demanded that the student should be at the university to perform studies with the required presence and not with distance learning. However, it's a possibility that it can change, but for now we still have that condition.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. And I think for the other part of this question, I think it's good to contact the Swedish Institute Scholarship Group and ask them. I think that's all we can say at the moment. But regarding the whole distance learning, online learning, and start date of your semester, there will be information from your university about this. So you will just have to wait until you get the information from your university or contact your university, because this is all university specific. So just to repeat again, for students living not in their home country, but in a EU country, what should they do? So I'm just going to repeat, they can still apply for the residence permit online, that's the same. And then it's possible for them to, in certain Swedish embassies in the EU, not all countries, they can leave their fingerprints and collect their residence permit card. So they don't have to be in their home country when they apply for the residence permit.
That's correct, yeah.
Great, thanks. Okay, here's a student who is from Brazil, which is visa exempt, but who are currently in Sweden. Can they apply for their residence permit from Sweden?
As a first-time applicant, no.
So basically, when they are leaving their biometry and collecting. Sorry, wait. I don't think I understand actually, because this person is visa-free. They have to make their application from outside of Sweden. Is that?
They must await their decision outside of Sweden. They must have a decision before they arrive. So it's important to keep in mind that you make the application before you travel here, and also that you await the decision abroad. Because if you travel here without us taking the decision, we will most likely ask that person to leave the country in order for us to take the decision. So that will take longer for us to process that application. It will take longer to receive the decision.
Okay, because this person is in Sweden for. Sorry, what did you say?
It is not to recommend to do that. So it is to recommend to make the application abroad and to wait for the decision abroad.
And this person, I believe, was already living in Sweden for whatever reason. So he or she didn't travel to Sweden. He was already living here, or she. So then what would you recommend that person to do? For how long should they travel to another country when they apply?
Well, that changes the circumstances a bit. If you have a current valid residence permit, you are able to apply
while you're
inside
in Sweden.
from inside it. Yes. However, if you are here because you're able to travel without the visa, that is not okay. If you have a valid residence permit, it might be okay to make a change, for example, from a work permit to a study permit.
Gotcha. Or a family member permit, for example.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. But if the person is just here on her visa-free, I don't know if it's 3 months or the brief time when she can visit Sweden visa-free, during that time she shouldn't be applying for the residence permit. She should go back to, I guess, Brazil or another country and apply from there.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. See, okay, we're already a little bit over time, but I'll take one last question if that's okay.
Yes, that's okay.
Let's see. Okay, what if we find a permanent job while in Sweden and want to change the visa type, or I guess residence permit type, to a work permit? How would that work? And what would happen to the university tuition for the upcoming semester?
The question regarding tuition, I would recommend them to ask the university. However, the question regarding residence permit, the most important thing when you make that kind of change is that you apply before your current permit expires.
Okay. Apply before your current permit expires. But if they're studying, for example, if they're studying in Sweden on a student residence permit, and I'm not sure if that's the question here, but let's say that they haven't finished their degree and they want to change to a work permit. Is that possible to do in Sweden?
If you have taken at least 30 credits.
Okay. So after taking 30 credits, it is possible.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Then you cannot have two different types of residence permit at the same time. So we will, when you apply for the work permit, we will open an case of to revoke your current residence permit. So your residence permit for studies will be revoked and the work permit will take on after that.
Great. But yes, like Lejla and Amanda said before, it's important that you check with your university about the tuition question. It's not given that what will happen with the tuition that you will need to pay. Okay, we're already over time. Thank you so much, Amanda and Lejla, for staying on. Thanks to you, all of you in the audience, for asking so many good questions. Yeah, so I know there's still a lot of questions left, and we didn't have time to answer all of them, but this video will remain, so you can revisit the whole presentation. And after that, sorry, there's some noise in the background here. And if you still have questions after checking the presentation, please, you could go to the Migration Agency website. Like I said before, I'll send the link to everyone. And there you'll find a lot of information, and you'll find contact information for the Migration Agency relevant personnel. And you can also go to our Facebook page, Study in Sweden. It's facebook.com/studyinSweden. And there you'll find a lot of information. You can ask questions to current students in Sweden. They'll help you answer questions. General questions about studying in Sweden, and we'll try to help you with residence permit questions, even though I think those are better to take to the migration agency or your university. And so, yeah, I think my last advice is to really keep an eye out for emails from your university. Make sure to ask your university early if you have any questions, so that you can start your whole application process early. Amanda and Lejla, do you have anything else, like any final advice to give to the applicants?
Thank you for bearing with us, and contact us if it's anything else.
Great, perfect.
Yeah, and perhaps good luck with the studies.
Yes, definitely. Best of luck. Best of luck with your studies, with your application, and hopefully we will see you in Sweden this autumn. Most of all, stay healthy, stay safe, and yeah, I wish you all the best. Thank you all for joining us today, and yeah, goodbye from us.